back to 5-Minute Fridays. I am just about to start my 5-minute workout for today. I will be using a set of dumbbells today, but if you don't have dumbbells, don't go anywhere because I will be providing equipment-free substitutions and beginner modifications. There are timestamps in the description box down below the video, so if you would prefer to skip straight ahead to the workout, go ahead and use the chapter markers to do that. But if you would like to see the exercises demonstrated and explained before we begin, let's go ahead and get into that right now. So we're really just doing 3 exercises today. We're going to be doing static lunges, squats, and sit-ups basically. So starting with lunges, you're going to begin by standing in a neutral position, and what I mean by that is that your feet are going to be about shoulder width apart. Make sure that your shoulders are back and down and that your chest is lifted nice and high. And the best way to do that is to visualize tucking your shoulder blades into your back pockets. Make sure your abs are super tight and engaged. So if you imagine that someone is about to punch you as hard as they can in the stomach, think about how you would brace for that impact. That's how tight your abs should be. And from here, you're just going to take one foot and take a step back behind you. And now you're going to bend both knees. So if you are able to tap this back knee to the ground, that's great, you can do that. Just make sure you're controlling the movement. You want the movement to be under control regardless of whether you're tapping this back knee to the ground or not, but especially if you're tapping that knee to the ground, make sure the movement is under control so you don't bang your knee into the ground, because I've done it before and it hurts. But if you are not able to tap the back knee to the ground, that's fine. Just if you're a beginner or if you just don't have a very big range of motion and your lunge is here, that's fine. You don't have to tap the ground with this back knee. Just do your best to try to make sure that in your front knee, this is more or less a 90-degree angle. So instead of having this knee out over the toes of this front foot, you want to do your best to make sure that the knee of your front leg is more over the heel of your front foot. So focus on trying to have about a 90-degree angle in this front knee. All right, and that's basically the exercise. From there, we're just going to straighten the legs and come back up. You're not going to step this foot forward. It's a static lunge, so you're going to stay right here for the entire work interval. So at the start of the work interval, you're going to step one foot back, and then you're going to bend the knees, tap that back knee to the ground if you can, and then straighten the legs. And that's it, that's the whole exercise. Bend the knees, straighten. That's a static lunge. If you are a beginner, you can just do this for the entire work interval. And if you need to hold on to something for support, you can hold on to a strong, sturdy, stable chair for support, or your dining room table, the arm of your couch, your kitchen counter, any number of pile box, if you have one, will be great, or a park bench. Any number of elevated surfaces will work. Just make sure that if you are a beginner and you need to hold on to something for support, that whatever you're holding on to is strong enough to support your body weight, because you're going to be leaning on it. Maybe not with your entire body weight, but you want to make sure it's strong enough to support you. Make sure that it is sturdy, meaning that it's not going to collapse or fold up on you like a folding chair or something. Make sure it's well made so that when you put weight on it, it's sturdy enough that it's not going to wobble or collapse or fold up on you or anything like that. And make sure that it's stable, meaning that it can't slide from underneath you. So for example, if you're doing this on your kitchen counter, that's plenty stable, that's not going anywhere. But if you're using a chair for support or a bar stool or something like that, you want to make sure that it can't slide from underneath you when you put weight on it. So what I usually do is place my chair or my stool down on an exercise mat or a yoga mat. The mat will help keep the chair in place. It will help it to stay put so it can't slide from underneath you. So if you need to use an elevated surface for support, if you lack balance, if you're a beginner or you lack strength, that's fine. Just make sure that your elevated surface is strong, sturdy, and stable, okay? It has to be strong enough to support your body weight. It has to be sturdy enough so that it won't collapse or break or fold up on you when you put weight on it, and it has to be stable enough so that it can't slide from underneath you, all right? So please use your common sense and be safe, but if you are a beginner, go ahead and hold on to something for support. So that's just a static lunge. Now we're going to be adding pulses onto that. We're going to start with just one static lunge, so lunge and stand, that's our first rep. With our second rep, we're going to add a pulse at the bottom. So we're going to lunge, and now before we straighten the legs all the way, we're going to pulse and then straighten the legs. With each subsequent rep, you're going to add one pulse. So now with our third lunge, we're going to lunge and then pulse, pulse, and stand. Now add a pulse. So we're going to do 3 pulses at the bottom. Lunge, pulse, 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 and stand. Add a pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, and stand. So we're just going to keep adding on a pulse with each rep if you can. If you are a beginner, you may or may not be able to do that. So if the pulses are too intense, just stick with your static lunges. Let me go to the other side just so I even myself out a little bit. So as soon as the work interval begins, you'll step back and lunge, straighten the legs. If it's too intense, adding a pulse with each rep, then you'll stay right here, okay? Holding on to an elevated surface for support if you need it, okay? If you're able to add the pulses, then you're going to add 1 pulse with each rep. So that is your equipment-free substitution and your beginner modification for the first exercise. I'm going to be adding weight to each one of these exercises, and each exercise is going to include some form of an overhead press. So with this first exercise, I'm going to be adding an overhead press with my palms facing my ears. So I'm going to be holding onto my dumbbells. So if you're looking at me from the side, the back of this hand is facing you, and that's the position I'm going to press the weights up overhead. And then I'm going to bend my elbows and bring the weights back down to my shoulders. So my palms are going to be facing each other while I do that. So with my very first rep, I'm going to start holding my weights to my sides. So my palms are going to be facing the outsides of my legs. I'm going to take 1 step back. As I step back, I'm going to do a hammer curl. So if you think about the way you would swing a hammer, that's the grip. So the entire exercise, if you're looking at me from this side, the back of this hand will be facing you for the entire exercise. So I'm going to be holding on to my dumbbells in this position. The back of this hand is facing you. As I step back, I'm going to curl the weights up towards my shoulders. So I'm going to just bend my elbow and bring the weights up towards the shoulders. I'm doing that as I step back into my lunge. And now as I straighten my legs, I'm going to press the weights up overhead. So I've never rotated my wrists. This entire time you're looking at the back of this hand. Then as I sink back down into the lunge, I'm going to lower the weights back down to my shoulders. So that's the exercise with the weights, and I'm just going to add that little pulse. So let me pick up my weights, and you can see what it looks like when I'm actually holding onto the weights. So I'm starting in a neutral position, holding the weights to my side. You're going to be looking at the back of this hand the whole time, remember. So I'm going to step 1 foot back and sink down to my lunge, and as I do that, I'm going to curl the weights up towards my shoulders. And now as I straighten the legs, I'm going to press the weights up overhead. Then as I sink back down into my lunge, I'm going to lower the weights back down to my shoulders. And I'm going to add that little pulse with my second rep. So pulse and straighten the legs. Press the weights up overhead. Add a pulse. Pulse, and stand. Press the weights up overhead. All right, so it's the exact same exercise and the exact same progression. So if the pulses are too intense, you can eliminate them, but you can keep the overhead press if you want. So it's the exact same exercise, but I'm just adding an overhead press each time I straighten my legs. Okay, so if you're a beginner, but you do think that you can handle the overhead press, great. grab a set of dumbbells. If you don't have dumbbells, household items will work. So if you plan on following my workouts regularly, I use dumbbells a lot. So you really can start with a very light set of dumbbells, like 1 pound dumbbells or 3 pound dumbbells. You can get them, and they sell them at the drugstore, okay? They have those little like 3 pound dumbbells. You can buy them at the drugstore. They're not expensive. I highly recommend investing in at least a light set of dumbbells if you're just starting out. And then as you get stronger and you get to know your body better and you get to know what you can handle, you can gradually increase the weight. That's great. But highly recommended that you invest in at least a light set of dumbbells to start. But for right now, today, if you don't want to run to the drugstore before you do your workout, go inside, or if you're inside already, stay inside, I guess. But you can grab a couple of shampoo bottles or water bottles. If you have reusable water bottles, you can fill them with water, that's fine. If you want to make them a little bit heavier, fill them with something like uncooked rice or dried beans, maybe kitty litter or powdered laundry detergent, something like that. So that is another way that you can add weight to the exercises if you want to increase the difficulty a little bit, but it's suitable for beginners because you're not going to be able to fill 2 water bottles or 2 shampoo bottles with like a crazy amount of weight. So they'll be nice and light. So if you feel like you're a beginner but you want to try adding weight, please consider investing in a set of light dumbbells. But in the meantime, water bottles or shampoo bottles will absolutely work. If you don't have anything that's going to work for weight, or you just don't feel comfortable adding weight to your workouts yet, that's fine. You have your equipment-free substitutions, so just do that. For reference, and for reference only, my dumbbells weigh 10 pounds a piece. So that weight works well for me, especially for these exercises that we're doing today. 10-pound dumbbells are plenty challenging for me. Just be aware that you may need to use something lighter or heavier, depending on your strength, on your level of fitness, what you have available to you, and how hard you're looking to push yourself today. So please consider all of those factors when choosing your weights, if you're adding weight, and make the decision that is best for you. But that's your first exercise. That's the way I'm doing it with the overhead press. You can eliminate the overhead press if you don't want to add weight, and you can eliminate the pulses and hold on to something for support if you are a beginner. So our next exercise is going to be a squat variation. I'm going to be doing thrusters because, like I told you, each of these exercises, the way I'm doing them, for the more advanced version of the workout, is going to include some sort of an overhead press. But before we get to the thrusters, let me go ahead and show you your equipment-free substitution so that we can go over the proper form for your squat. So you are, again, going to want to start by checking in with your posture. So remember how before we stepped back into our lunge, the first thing we did was tuck our shoulder blades into our back pockets. So we're gonna do that again. Tuck the shoulder blades into the back pockets so that your shoulders are back and down, your chest is lifted nice and high. You're gonna tighten up those abs again as though you are bracing for impact. Someone's about to punch you in the stomach. Now, before you think about squatting down, when I think about my squat as going straight down, look what tends to happen. Do you see how my knees are out over my toes? That's not the movement. You really could hurt your knees doing that. So what we want to think about instead is pushing your booty back. So if you visualize trying to touch the wall behind you with your booty, that is going to help you to keep your chest lifted nice and high. It's going to help you keep a nice flat back so that you're not rounding your back at any point like this. And it's going to help you keep your weight in your heels. So when I'm squatted straight down, look at where my knees are, how they're out over my toes. When I think instead about pushing my booty back and trying to touch the wall behind me with my booty, now look at where my knees are. Do you see how they're over my heels now? So my entire body weight is over my heels. I can actually pick up my toes. And then from this position is where you can sink down into your squat. So once you've got a nice flat back and the weight in your heels, that's where you can go ahead and sink down into your squat. Now, if you can sink real low and get your booty all the way down past your knees, that's great. Go ahead and do that. If you're not there yet, that's fine. Work to your own level, but do your best to see if you can at least get your thighs so that they are parallel to the ground. You may or may not be able to get there. Work to your own level. It's never a good idea to push your body into doing something it's not ready to do. So if you cannot get your thighs parallel to the ground, just come here. That's absolutely fine. If you're a beginner, you might need to shorten up your range of motion and just come here. The important thing is your posture. The important thing is that your back stays flat and the weight stays in your heels. So one more time. Tuck the shoulder blades into the back pockets. Your shoulders are back and down, away from your ears. Your chest is lifted nice and high. Tighten up your abs. Push the booty back like you're trying to touch the wall behind you with your booty. While you're trying to touch the wall behind you with your booty, think about trying to touch the wall in front of you with your chest so that your spine stays nice and long, elongated, your back stays straight and you're not rounding your back. And then sink down into your squat. Now to stand, you're going to press your heels into the ground. Visualize pressing the ground away from you with your heels and stand, okay? So shoulders back and down, chest is high, abs are tight, pushing the booty back, keeping your back flat, keeping the weight in your heels as you sink down into your squat, and then using your heels to press into the ground, push the ground away from you to stand. All right, that's a basic air squat. And if you are a beginner, you can do that. Just work on your squats. So again, if you need to hold on to something for support, that's fine. A strong, sturdy, stable chair will work. Your kitchen counter will work. Your dining room table, maybe the arm of your couch. A plyo box would be ideal, a park bench, something like that, okay? So if you need to hold on to something for support, that's fine. And if you need to shorten up your range of motion, just come here. That's fine. The only important thing is that your back is flat and the weight is in your heels. So shoulders back and down, chest high, abs are tight, push the booty back. Keep your back flat, keep the weight in your heels, and press your heels into the ground to stand. Now we're going to be doing the same thing we did with our lunges, meaning that we're going to add one pulse with each rep. So with your first squat, you're not going to add any pulses. You're going to squat and then come back up. 0 pulses. With your next rep, you're going to add 1 pulse at the bottom. So shoulders back and down, chest lifted high, push the booty back. Back is flat, weight in the heels. Sink down into your squat, and now pulse, come back down, and then press the heels into the ground to stand. With each subsequent rep, you'll add 1 pulse, so with your next rep, you'll add 2 pulses. Squat, pulse, pulse, and stand. Now add 3 pulses. Squat, pulse, 2, 3, and stand. So again, beginners may or may not be able to add those pulses. If you want to try, then you can try just adding 1 pulse, and then if you're able, add 2, add 3. If it starts to get too intense, you can start working your way back. So let's say you've added 3 pulses. You're gonna squat and pulse. 1, 2, 3, and now you're starting to feel, okay, these pulses are getting too intense, I don't want to keep adding them. You can start deducting pulses with each rep, so then with your next rep, you can pulse 1, 2, and stand, and then deduct another pulse, pulse 1, and stand, and then just an air squat with no pulses. And then you can either stay there or you can start adding pulses again, okay? So it's really customizable, just choose your level, choose what works for you. If you start doing something to challenge yourself, but it starts to get too challenging and you need to scale it back, scale it back. That's absolutely fine. But that is the second exercise without any added weight. So that's your equipment-free substitution and your beginner modification for the squats. I'm going to be doing thrusters, which is just a squat with an overhead press. So for this overhead press, I'm going to have my palms facing front. So if you're watching me from the front, my palms are facing you, my wrists are facing you, the back of my hands are facing this gate behind me. And I'm going to keep the weights like that the entire time. I'm going to have my weights on my shoulders as I sink down into my squat. And then as I stand, I'm going to press the weights up overhead. Then I'm going to bend my elbows and lower the weights back down towards my shoulders with control, and that is a thruster, okay? So again, if you wanted to use just a very light set of dumbbells for this, I think that would be a great idea. Or if you want to hold on to a couple of cans of soup, that would work. If you have a couple of shampoo bottles or water bottles, you can use those as well. Again, my weights are 10 pounds a piece. So they're a bit heavier than what a household item is most likely going to be, but you have to choose the weight that's right for you depending on, like I said, your strength and your level of fitness, but also what you have available to you. So you might be stronger to lift, or strong enough to lift something heavier than water bottles, but if that's what you've got, that's what you've got. So go ahead and use it. Again, you don't have to add weight if you don't want to. If you're not adding weight, you're just gonna do air squats. That's totally fine. Or any squat variation you wanna do really. But I'm going to start with my weights up here by my shoulders. My palms are facing you. So now my shoulders are back and down. My chest is lifted high. My abs are tight. I'm going to push my booty back, keeping my back flat, keeping the weight in my heels as I sink down into my squat. And then I'm going to press my heels into the ground to stand. And as I stand, I'm going to straighten my elbows and press the weights up overhead. Now I'm going to bend my elbows and lower the weights back down to my shoulders with control. That's 1 rep. So squat, press the weights up overhead. So if you want to just do thrusters for the entire work interval, that's what you're going to do. I'm going to be doing thrusters, but I'm also going to be adding 1 pulse with each rep. So with my first rep, I'll just do a thruster with no pulses. With my next rep, I'll add that pulse at the bottom. So I'll squat and then pulse once before standing and pressing the weights up overhead. Then I'll bring the weights back down to my shoulders. With my next rep, I'll add on 2 pulses. 1 pulse, 2 pulse, stand, overhead press. And we'll just keep going like that. I'm going to add on 1 pulse at the bottom of the squat with each subsequent rep until the work interval is finished. All right, third and final exercise is basically just sit-ups. So let's start again with your equipment-free substitution and your beginner modifications, and then I'll show you how to add weight to the exercise because when I do the more advanced version of the workout, I'm going to be adding weight. So if you are not adding weight, you're going to come down onto your mat, on your back, bend your knees, and you can just have your hands above your head to start if you want. That's fine, that's usually how I do it. And I'm going to have my heels up off the mat the entire time. If that's too difficult for you, you can have your feet on the mat. That's absolutely fine, okay? So let's start with your beginner modification and then I'll show you how to increase the difficulty and you can choose the option that works best for you. So if you're a total beginner, you're really just going to do a sit-up. All right, so do your best. I always start with my arms overhead and then I'm going to bring my arms over like this and sit up. I like to sit up tall at the top of my sit-up, elongate that spine and reach up like I'm trying to touch the sky, all right, or touch the ceiling. And then you're just going to reverse the movement. So you're gonna come back down, bring your arms back overhead. It doesn't really matter what you do with your arms, but this is just always how I do it. All right, so super simple. However you do your sit-ups, however you're comfortable doing them is fine. If you want your legs straight, that's fine. You can do sit-ups with your legs straight. If you want to do a competition sit-up, you can come forward and touch the toes, all right? Any variation works, but if you are a beginner, you can just do sit-ups. If you want to challenge yourself and add something, because I'm going to be adding an overhead press, but if you don't have any weight to press up overhead, there's no point in pressing weight up overhead. So what you can do instead is add a couple of Russian twists. So you can sit up, and then before you reverse the movement and come back down to your starting position, you can twist and tap the side of your mat, 1 tap on either side, and then sit back down. All right, so sit up, twist and tap, twist and tap. So you're twisting your body thoracically. If you're able to tap, physically tap the mat, great, that's what you're going for. But if you are a beginner, you might not have that big of a range of motion yet, so that's fine. If you can only come here, just come here. If you're not able to actually tap the mat, that's fine. Just be where you are, okay? Always you put in the work at the level you're at now. That's how you get stronger. That's how you will see your range of motion increase. But if for today, you are not able to tap the mat, then just come here, okay? That's fine. Just sit up and then twist as though you're trying to tap the mat. Even if you can't get there, twist and tap. So again, you can just do this for the entire work interval if you want. If you want to add on 2 Russian twists with each rep, you can do that. So with your first rep, you can just sit up, return to your starting position. Then with your next rep, you can sit up, add 2 twists, return to your starting position. With each subsequent rep, add on 2 twists. So sit up, and now twist, twist, return to your starting position. Now add another twist, sit up. Now we're gonna twist. 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 twists to each side, so we keep it even, and so on, okay? Now, if you want to increase the difficulty, you're gonna do all of that same progression with your heels off the mat. Totally optional, but you're going to make it a lot more difficult if you lift your heels off the mat. So if you're a beginner, you can keep your heels down. If you wanna try to challenge yourself, do the same thing with your heels off the mat. So sit up, and then come back down. Stay right here if you want. Okay, don't add the twists if you're not there yet. Just sit up and come back down. If you want to increase the difficulty, then you're going to sit up, twist and tap, and then come back down. With each subsequent rep, add on 1 more twist and tap, so that's 1 and 2. Back down. Add on another Russian twist, or 2 more. So 1, twist, 2, twist, 3, and return to the starting position. And again, if it starts to get too difficult, adding on all the twists, you have options. If you want to keep adding twists, you can start doing the reps with your heels down, or you can start deducting. So that last rep, we added on 3 twists on each side. With the next rep, you could do 2. With the next rep, you could just do 1 Russian twist, and then you can go back to just sit-ups. Okay, so there's a progression there. Just choose whatever option works best for you, and you don't have to stick with the same option for the entire work interval. So if you start with your heels down and you think, well, I think I'm kind of strong enough to try something a little more challenging, you can lift your heels for a few reps. And then if that gets too difficult, you can put them back down. You can decide you want to add on the Russian twists and then decide, oh, this is not working for me, and just go back to sit-ups. And then maybe you'll feel after a few reps of just sit-ups that you have enough strength to start adding the Russian twists again. Okay, so really, as long as you keep moving the best you can for the entire work interval, any sit-up variation that works for you is fine. But that's your equipment-free substitution along with a few different options for beginner modifications. Now, I'm actually not going to be adding on the Russian twist. The reason I showed you the Russian twist is just so that you would be able to add something the way we've been doing. So with our lunges and our squats, we were adding pulses. What I'm going to be adding when I do this with my weight is an overhead press. But since you're not holding on to weight, you're not doing an overhead press. So the Russian twist was just so you have something to kind of add if you want to do that, because we're doing that for all the other exercises. I'm actually going to be doing a tricep overhead press. So for this exercise, I'm going to hold on to just 1 of my dumbbells. So a kettlebell will work great for this. A medicine ball will work great. If you're using household items, then you'll just need 1 can of soup or 1 water bottle or 1 shampoo bottle. However, since your weights are light, you could hold 2 of them together if you want. So if you're holding on to really light weights, these are super light. These are 3 pounds a piece. So if your weights are really light, you can hold them together like this, because I'm only adding a total of 6 pounds of weight to this exercise if I do this. So if you're using water bottles or shampoo bottles and they're real light, you can hold both of them if you want. You can just hold one like this. That's what I'm going to be doing with my heavier weight. But if your weights are lighter and this is just not, you don't see the point in this, it's not going to challenge you, you can double the amount of weight by holding your weights together like this. I'm going to start with my weights up overhead like this, and now I'm going to sit up and bring the weights up like this overhead. And now you can just do that if you want, that's fine. You can just work on your sit-ups. If it's too taxing to bring the weights over your head, then you can keep them in front of your chest. That's absolutely fine. You can add those Russian twists with weight. You can have your heels up. You can add a couple of punches, okay? Lots of options. But what I'm going to be doing is adding a tricep overhead press. So I'm going to be bringing my weights up, pressing them up overhead, and then from here, I'm going to do a tricep extension. So I'm going to bend my elbows and bring the weight behind me like this. Then I'm going to straighten my elbows and press the weight back up overhead. Bring the weight back down towards my chest and return to my starting position. Just make sure that when you're doing your tricep extension, if you are adding it, you want your elbows glued to the side of your head. So when you bend your elbows and lower the weight behind you, make sure your elbows aren't going back. And when you bring the weights forward, make sure your elbows aren't coming in front of your head. You want to keep your elbows glued right there. So right now my arms are lifted straight up overhead. From my shoulders to my elbows, I want that part of my arm to stay perfectly stationary. I'm just hinging at the elbows, letting the weights fall down behind me, and then hinging at the elbows. So from my shoulders to my elbows, should stay perfectly still, hinging at the elbows, lifting the weights back up overhead, and then coming back down to my starting position. So with each rep, we're going to be adding 1 tricep extension. So again, I'm going to be holding on to my heavier dumbbell. This is 10 pounds. So I'm just going to be holding on to 1 dumbbell. So I have my dumbbell, 1 hand on either side of my dumbbell. I'm going to come down on my back, and I'm starting with the dumbbell over my head like this. Now I'm going to sit up, bring the weight with me, and press it straight up overhead. 0 tricep extensions. That's rep number 1. Now bring the weight back down and return to my starting position. And again, you can keep the weight in front of your chest if you want. I think I'm going to have the weight overhead. So now with my next rep, I'm going to add 1 tricep extension. So I'm going to sit up, press the weight up overhead, add 1 tricep extension, and then come back down and return to my starting position. With each subsequent rep, I'm going to add on 1 tricep extension. So now with my 3rd rep, I'm going to sit up, and I'm going to add 1, 2 tricep extensions. Return to my starting position. So with each rep, you'll add 1 tricep extension. So that's it, that's all 3 exercises. Hopefully that all makes sense and all the different levels of progression make sense. Now here is the format. So if you're a beginner, I'm going to do the entire beginner workout right along with you so that you don't have to worry about applying your beginner modifications while you're watching me do something else, and you don't have to follow along with the little box in the corner of the screen. You're just going to do what I'm doing. We'll do it together, okay? So for our first version of the workout, that is going to be our equipment-free beginner version. I'm going to have my timer set for 15-second rest intervals and 45-second work intervals times 5 rounds. That's our 5 minutes. We are going to start with our static lunges. We will stay on the same leg for the entire work interval. Then we're going to move on to our squats. Our third exercise is going to be our sit-up variation, and then we're going to go backwards. So then we're going to repeat our squats, and we'll finish with lunges. So we're starting with lunges, we're finishing with lunges. Just remember which leg you started on with your first work interval, because with your last work interval, you're going to want to make sure that you're on the opposite leg. So with our first work interval, we're doing static lunges. If you're starting by stepping back with this foot, you're going to stay in this position the entire work interval, and you're going to do your static lunges, adding the pulses at the bottom if you want. But then once that work interval is over, you're going to step the foot forward, rest for 15 seconds, and then our next work interval, you're going to be doing squats, then sit-ups, and then squats again. So with our fifth and final work interval, you're going to want to make sure that for this round of lunges, you're stepping back with the opposite leg. So now I'm going to take this foot and step it back behind me for our final work interval, and I'll be here on this leg for the entire work interval that last time through. Make sense? All right, so that is your beginner workout. Static lunges on one side, then squats, then sit-ups, then squats, and then static lunges on the other side. 15-second rest intervals, 45-second work intervals times 5 rounds. If you are doing the more advanced version of the workout, since you are more advanced, we're going to shorten up the rest intervals, and we're going to make the work intervals a little longer. So we're going to be on 10-second rest intervals, 50-second work intervals times 5 rounds, but the format is going to be exactly the same. We will start with lunges, whatever lunge variation you're doing, staying on the same leg for the entire intervals. Then we're doing thrusters. Then we're doing our weighted sit-up with a tricep overhead press. Then we'll do thrusters again, and then with our final work interval, we will do static lunges on the other leg, and that is our 5 minutes. Please remember that I always take the time to type out the instructions in the description box down below the video. And I'm going to share my entire workout with you. I'm going to share both workouts with you. We're going to do the beginner / equipment-free workout first in its entirety, and then I'm going to do the weighted, more advanced version of the workout with you in its entirety. So watch me do it, read the instructions, but then of course, as always, if anything is unclear with the format, and how it all fits together, if you have any questions about the exercises that we were doing today, or if you have any doubts about how to do the exercises with the correct form, please just ask. It's very important that you understand the movements and that you understand how to do the exercises correctly before you begin the workout, so that you reduce your risk of injury and just so that you make sure you're getting the maximum benefit out of each exercise. And you guys know that it's also really important to me that all of my workouts are always accessible to anyone and everyone who wants to do them with me. I'm always here to help facilitate that. So if you need any further help with equipment-free substitutions or beginner modifications beyond what I have already provided, please just ask. And just one last thing before we get started, please remember to work to your own level. Do not push your body into doing something that it is not ready to do. Make sure you're going at your own pace. So if you're faster than I am, great. Be faster than I am. Just make sure you're not losing anything off of your form to get there. You don't want to sacrifice your form for speed. So prioritize your proper form above all else, and then just do as many reps as you can during each work interval with excellent form. Do not sacrifice your form for speed. The goal is to only rest during the rest intervals and to use your entire work interval to keep working and not to rest at all during the work interval, but you have to listen to your body. Do not push your body into doing something it's not ready to do. So please work to your own level and go at your own pace. If you need to slow down or if you need to pause and rest in the middle of a work interval, then that's what you should do. Take as long of a rest break as you need. Challenge yourself to keep the rest break as short as you can, but only come back when you feel that you have rested long enough and you have enough strength to come back and start doing the reps again with good form. So hopefully that covers everything. If you're ready to go ahead and start the workout, grab a set of dumbbells if you have them and if you are adding weight. If you don't have dumbbells, remember water bottles or shampoo bottles will work. And if you don't have anything that's going to work for weight, you have your equipment-free substitutions. So you don't need to add weight if you don't want to, but you will want something soft beneath you for our ab exercise. So grab an exercise mat or a yoga mat if you have one. If not, a towel should suffice. Please make sure that you take a minute or so to warm up. It is always a good idea to warm up before you begin the workout. Jumping into this workout, even though it's so short, jumping into any workout with cold muscles is a bad idea. That is a good way to pull something. I don't want anyone getting injured. So please take a couple of minutes to warm up your muscles before you begin the workout. And when you're ready, let's get started. All right, so beginners, you are up first. If you want to do this beginner version of the workout with me, we are on 15-second rest intervals, 45-second work intervals times 5 rounds. That is our 5 minutes. Make sure you have something soft beneath you for our ab exercise. So an exercise mat or a yoga mat if you have one. If not, a towel should suffice. So when you're ready, here we go. I am starting my timer in 3, 2, 1. This is a 15-second rest interval to get ready. We're going to start with static lunges. So you're going to step back with one foot. You're going to bend both your knees. Tap this back knee to the mat if you can, but you don't have to tap the back knee to the mat if you can't get all the way down there. That's fine. Then you're going to straighten your legs and stand. Now you can stay here if you want. If you want to increase the difficulty a little, you can add a little pulse at the bottom. Add 1 pulse with each rep for as long as you can. So now lunge, pulse, 1, 2, and straighten the legs. Now add another pulse, lunge, pulse, 1, 2, 3, and stand. 1 more pulse, pulse, 2, 3, 4. If it's getting too intense, adding the pulses, you can start deducting them. So you can pulse 1, 2, 3, and stand. Or you can eliminate the pulses altogether and just do static lunges. That's fine. Next is squats. So shoulders are back and down, chest is lifted high. Tighten up those abs. You're gonna push your booty back like you're trying to touch the wall behind you with your booty. And now from here, you can sink down into your squat. Press the ground away with your heels to stamp. So again, you can stay right here if you need to. If you want to challenge yourself, you can add a little pulse. Squat and pulse before you return to your starting position. Now add a pulse with each rep. So that's 2 pulses. Now we're going to pulse 1, 2, 3, and stand. So again, adding 1 pulse, 2, 3, 4 with each rep. Once it gets too challenging, start deducting pulses. So you can pulse 1, 2, 3. And if you need to eliminate the pulses altogether, you can just do air squats. That's totally fine. Now down onto the mat for abs, we're going to do sit-ups. Any sit-up variation you want to do is fine. So I have my knees bent, my feet are flat on the mat. I'm going to sit up and reach up, straightening my back at the top and trying to touch the ceiling. Now if you want, you can add on a couple of Russian twists and you can increase with 1 rep on each side. 1, 2, 3 with each rep. Increase the difficulty from there. You can raise your heels and then twist and tap. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remember, you can start deducting the Russian twist, deducting 2 reps of Russian twists with each rep if you need to, and you can have your heels on the mat if you need to. So now we're back to squats. Tuck the shoulder blades into the back pockets. Push the booty back, squat, and stand. Stay right here if you want. If you want to increase the difficulty, you can start adding pulses. So you can squat and add 1 pulse. Press the heels into the mat to stand. Add another pulse. 1, 2, and stand. Adding 1 pulse with each rep for as long as you can. So pulse 1, 2, 3, 4. When it starts to get too difficult, deduct pulses. 1, 2, 3. And again, if the pulses are too intense, just do air squats. This is our final work interval, so we're back to static lunges. Just make sure you're stepping back with the opposite foot. So with the first work interval, I stepped back with this foot. With the final work interval, I'm stepping back with the opposite foot. Bend the knees, straighten the legs. Stay right here. Remember, you can hold on to something for support if you need to. And if you want to challenge yourself, you can start adding pulses. So lunge and pulse before straightening the legs. Add a pulse with each rep if you can. So now add 3 pulses if you can. Pulse 1, 2, 3, and stand. Add a pulse if you can. 1, 2, 3, 4. Straighten the legs. Start deducting pulses when it gets too difficult. 1, 2, 3. Deduct 1 more if you want, and so on. But that's our 5 minutes. We made it. All right, shake it out. I know that was tough. A really amazing job if you managed to hang in there with me for the entire 5 minutes. We are not quite finished yet. No workout of mine is ever complete, even if it is only 5 minutes long, until we have done our bonus burpee. So we have just 1 rep left to go. Being a beginner does not excuse you from having to do your bonus burpee. The bonus burpee is always mandatory. So let's go ahead and do a beginner bonus burpee together, and then the workout will be officially complete. So I'm going to start by standing in the middle of my mat. I'm going to bend down, put my hands on the mat in front of me, step my feet out into a plank position. Now do a push-up if you want. Step or jump the feet back in. Stand and come up onto your toes if you can, or if you want, you can add a little jump. All right, with that, the workout is now officially complete. If you did this little 5-minute beginner workout with me today, thank you so much. Please let me know what you thought of it and how you did. If you enjoy these 5-minute workouts and you would like to see more of them, please remember that I have an entire playlist of 5-minute workouts on my channel. Remember, please, to take a good 15 minutes at least to stretch. The best time to do it is right now. As long as you get your stretching done at some point during the day, it's fine. But the best time to stretch is immediately after the workout because your muscles are already warm. You never want to do your stretching with cold muscles. So if you wait until later in the day to stretch, you're going to have to warm your muscles back up. This is going to be the most efficient and effective time to get your stretching done. So please take a good 15 minutes at least to stretch. Stretching after the workout, especially if you're a beginner, is going to help alleviate any soreness that you might be feeling tomorrow after a tough workout like this. It is also going to help reduce your risk of injury moving forward, and it's going to increase your flexibility, so don't skip your stretching. If you would like to stick around and try the more advanced version of the workout, fantastic. Grab a light set of weights if you have them. 1 or 3 or 5 pound dumbbells would be perfect, but if not, you can grab a couple of water bottles or shampoo bottles filled with water, uncooked rice, dried beans, something like that, or even just a couple of cans of soup from the pantry. And just remember again, do not push your body into doing something it's not ready to do. So make sure you're working to your own level. Make sure you're going at your own pace. Make sure you're not sacrificing your form for speed. But if you just finished the beginner version of the workout with me, you're warmed up already, so let's get started. For this more advanced version of the workout, we are on 10-second rest intervals, 50-second work intervals times 5 rounds. That's our 5 minutes. So when you're ready, here we go. I am starting my timer in 3, 2, 1. This is a 10-second rest interval to get ready. So pick up your weights. We're starting with static lunges, so you're going to step 1 foot back, and as you do that, you'll curl the weights up to your shoulders. Now straighten the legs and press the weights up overhead. Now we're going to add a pulse and press the weights. Adding a pulse with each rep, so pulse 1, 2, straighten the legs and press the weights up overhead. 1, 2, 3, Straighten the legs, overhead press. Pulse, 2, 3, 4. Overhead press as you straighten those legs. Controlling the movements as you bring the weights back down to the shoulders. And adding on 1 pulse at the bottom of the movement with each rep. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Press the weights up overhead. Pulse. 2. All right, 10 seconds to rest. Shake it out. Next is thrusters. So bring the weights back up to the shoulders. You're gonna squat. Press the weights up overhead. Now add a pulse. Pulse. And press the weights up overhead. 2 pulses. So it's the same pattern with each rep. We're adding a pulse. At the bottom, pressing the weights up overhead at the top. So now 4 pulses, squat. Pulse 1, 2, 3, 4, and press the weights. Pulse, 2, 3, 4, 5. Press the weights up overhead. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, drop 1 weight. Come down to the mat. Doing a sit-up. And now a sit-up with a tricep overhead press. Sit up. 2 tricep overhead presses. Sit up. Add another tricep overhead press. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Adding 1 tricep extension. So that's 2, 3, and 4 with each rep. So sit up. 1, 2. Back to thrusters. So weights up by the shoulders. My palms are facing you. Squat, press the weights up overhead. Now add a pulse. Press the weights up overhead. Adding a pulse with each rep. So 1, 2, overhead press. Add another pulse. 1, 2, 3, overhead press. Pulse, 2, 3, 4. Press the weights up overhead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 pulses. 1. Never mind, I lied. All right, 10 seconds to rest. This is our final work interval. So now stepping back with the opposite leg. Static lunge, pulse, press the weights up overhead. Lunge, pulse 1, 2, and press the weights. Make sure you're on a different leg than the one you started on. Adding 1 pulse with each rep. So pulse, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's our 5 minutes. And it's a good thing, because I don't think I could have done 1 more rep. That was super tough. All right, shake it out. You guys, that was so tough. I can't even walk. My quads are just jelly. That was so hard with the added weight. So really amazing job if you managed to hang in there with me for the entire 5 minutes. We are not quite finished yet. No workout of mine is ever complete, even if it is only 5 minutes long, until we have done our bonus burpee. So we have just 1 rep left to go. But first, it is time for the McFlurry Minute. I'm going to reset my timer to count down 60 seconds for me. I'm going to jump rope for 60 seconds, and if I can make it through the entire 60-second work interval without tripping over my jump rope, everybody wins a free McFlurry. So give me just a minute to go grab my jump rope and reset my timer. I will be right back. All right, my timer has been reset. If you follow my workouts regularly, and if you are a very astute observer, you may notice that I always do my best to coordinate my jump rope with my outfit. So you may have guessed, based on what I'm wearing today, that Victoria was going to get the call today. Victoria is my beautiful silver jump rope with the pretty light pink metallic handles. And if you're wondering where I get my jump ropes, I will leave a link and a coupon code in the description box down below the video. So click on the link and use coupon code RUDEBECCA to save an additional 10% on your jump rope. We currently have a streak going of 6 successful McFlurry Minutes in a row. We are trying to make it 7 in a row today, so wish me luck. We are starting, as always, with a 10-second rest interval. And now, the question you need to be asking yourself is, do you think 7 is going to be lucky? Do ya, punk? Here we go. Lucky 7, we did it. Another successful McFlurry Minute in the books, thanks to Victoria. That is an entire week's worth of free ice cream. Amazing. Now let's wrap this thing up so we can all head to McDonald's and enjoy our free ice cream for lunch. So now we have just 1 rep left to go. Let's go ahead and do our bonus burpee together, and then the workout will be officially complete. When you're ready, here we go. Final rep of the day. The workout is now officially complete. If you did this little 5-minute workout with me today, thank you so much. Please let me know what you thought of it and how you did. Thank you to everyone who has been working out with me lately. And even if you're not doing the workouts with me, thank you for watching the videos. Thank you for liking and sharing the videos. Thank you so much for all of your wonderful and supportive and engaging comments. It really does mean the world to me. Thank you to all of my new subscribers. If you are not subscribed already, please subscribe. And of course, a great big thank you to those of you who have been subscribed to my channel for years. Please know that I appreciate you all so very much. One final reminder that if anything is unclear with the format, how it all fits together, if you have any questions about the exercises that we were doing today, if you have any doubts about how to do the exercises with the correct form, or if you need any further help with equipment-free substitutions or beginner modifications beyond what I have already provided, I am right here. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or if you need help. If you enjoy these 5-minute workouts and you would like to see more of them, please remember that I have an entire playlist of 5-minute workouts on my channel. I will link it right there. And we will be continuing to do these 5-minute Fridays for the foreseeable future. So that means that I will be continuing to bring you at least one new 5-minute workout a week every week for the foreseeable future. That is going to do it for today. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and I will see you all next time. Bye.